My 7-year-old daughter stopped eating because of 4 words my husband said on a phone call he thought nobody could hear. She was supposed to be asleep. It was almost 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night, way past her bedtime. I was supposed to be at my mother's house, sorting through boxes of my late father's belongings in her attic. But my mom got one of her migraines, the kind that makes light feel like broken glass behind her eyes, so I drove home early. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw my husband Wade's car parked in its usual spot. The house was dark except for the faint glow coming from his home office window. I figured he was catching up on work emails. I figured our daughter Junie was tucked safely in her bed, dreaming about horses and butterflies and whatever else 7-year-olds dream about. I was wrong about everything that night. I unlocked the front door quietly, not wanting to disturb anyone. I slipped off my shoes in the entryway and started toward the kitchen to get a glass of water before heading upstairs. That's when I saw her. My daughter sitting at the top of the staircase in complete darkness, her knees pulled up to her chest, her favorite stuffed horse butterscotch pressed so tightly against her body that the seams looked ready to split. Her face was wet with tears, but she wasn't making a single sound. No sobbing, no sniffling, just silent crying, the kind that breaks you in ways noise never could. I froze at the bottom of the stairs. My heart dropped into my stomach. "Uni, honey, what are you doing out of bed?" She looked down at me with those big brown eyes, the ones she got from me, and I saw something in them I'd never seen before. It wasn't sadness. It was something worse. It was confusion mixed with a hurt so deep it didn't have words yet. "I heard Daddy talking," she whispered. My throat tightened. "What did Daddy say, sweetheart?" She hugged Butterscotch even harder. Her little chin trembled, and then she said something that rearranged every single thing I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, and the man sleeping under my roof. "He said his new family is more fun than me and you. He said we're boring." She paused, and her voice cracked on the next words. "He laughed when he said it, Mommy. He was laughing." I stood there at the bottom of those stairs, and the world tilted sideways. New family, more fun, boring, laughing. Those words bounced around my skull like bullets ricocheting off bone. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. My daughter was sitting in the dark, traumatized by something her own father said, and I had absolutely no idea what to do. My name is Corinne Davenport. I'm 38 years old. I work as a pediatric occupational therapist at a children's rehabilitation center in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've spent my entire career helping kids heal from things that never should have happened to them. I've held the hands of parents while they cried in my office. I've coached families through impossible situations with patience and compassion and steady confidence. But standing at the bottom of my own staircase, looking up at my broken little girl, I realized something terrifying. I had no idea how to help my own child, because the person who hurt her wasn't a stranger or an accident or a medical condition I could research and treat. The person who hurt her was the man I'd loved since I was 17 years old, the man I'd married, built a home with, created a daughter with. The man who was right now sitting in his office, completely unaware that his secret phone call had just detonated a bomb in the middle of his family. I climbed those stairs slowly. Every step felt heavy, like I was walking through water. When I reached Junie, I scooped her into my arms without saying a word. She buried her face against my neck, and I felt her tears soak through my shirt, warm and endless. I carried her to her bedroom, pulled back the covers, and laid her down gently. I climbed in beside her, wrapped my arms around her small body, and held her while she cried herself to sleep. It took until almost 2 a.m. I didn't sleep at all. I just stared at the ceiling, listening to my daughter's ragged breathing slowly even out, and I thought about the man in the office downstairs, my husband of 11 years, the father of my child, a man who apparently had a whole other family, a family that was more fun than us, a family he laughed about while his real daughter slept 20 feet away. I didn't cry that night. I wanted to. I felt the tears building behind my eyes like pressure before a storm, but something stopped them. Something cold and hard settled into my chest instead, right where the warmth used to be. I didn't have room for tears. I had a decision to make. By the time the sun came up, I had made it. I was going to find out exactly who this new family was. I was going to document every lie my husband had ever told me. And I was going to make sure that when this was over, my daughter would never have to wonder if she was loved again. Wade Davenport thought his secret was safe. He thought he could laugh about us on the phone and then come upstairs and kiss me goodnight like nothing happened. He thought he was smarter than everyone around him. He had no idea what was coming. What happened next would unravel 11 years of lies in less than 72 hours. And by the end of it, my husband would call me 89 times in a single night, begging me not to destroy everything he'd built. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. Let me tell you about the life I thought I had, the marriage I thought was real, and the moment I realized I'd been living with a stranger the entire time. I need you to understand something before I go any further. I loved Wade Davenport with everything I had. This wasn't some arranged situation or a marriage of convenience. This was real, deep, stupid love that started when I was 17 years old and he was 20, working the summer at my uncle's auto shop while saving money for college. He had this grin that made my stomach flip every single time. He brought me wildflowers he picked from the side of the road. He told me I was the most beautiful girl he'd ever seen, and I believed him because of the way he looked at me when he said it. We got married when I was 27, after I finished my graduate degree and he finally landed a stable job in medical equipment sales. The wedding was small, just family and close friends in my mother's backyard. My father walked me down the makeshift aisle between folding chairs, and I remember thinking that my life was just beginning, that all the hard stuff was behind us. We'd survived his job instability in his 20s. We'd survived 2 miscarriages that nearly broke us both. We'd survived the financial strain of buying our first house with nothing but hope and a prayer. By the time Junie came along, healthy and screaming and perfect, I thought we'd earned our happiness. I thought the universe owed us some peace. For a while, it felt like we got it. Our house was a 2-story Craftsman on a quiet cul-de-sac in a suburb outside Charlotte. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. We had a big backyard where Junie could run around, a kitchen with enough counter space for Sunday morning pancakes, and a front porch where Wade and I would sit after Junie went to bed, talking about everything and nothing. My mother, Patrice, lived about 40 minutes away, close enough to visit, but far enough to give us space. She'd come over for Sunday dinners, and we'd all sit around the table like a real family, passing dishes and laughing at Junie's stories about her imaginary horse friends. I look back at those dinners now and I wonder how much of it was real. I wonder if Wade was already lying to me then, or if the lies came later. I wonder if he ever actually loved the life we built, or if he was just going through the motions while dreaming of something else. The changes started about 8 months before that Tuesday night. Small things at first, so small I almost didn't notice. Wade started going to the gym obsessively, sometimes twice a day. He'd never cared much about fitness before. But suddenly, he was tracking macros and buying protein powder and examining himself in the mirror with an intensity that felt strange. He bought new cologne, something expensive that I didn't recognize. When I asked about it, he shrugged and said he wanted to try something different. He got a new haircut, shorter on the sides, styled with product. He started caring about his clothes in a way he never had before. I told myself it was a midlife thing. He'd just turned 41. Maybe he was feeling his age, wanting to look younger, feel more confident. I actually thought it was kind of cute at first. My husband was putting effort into himself. What wife complains about that? But then came the business trips. Wade's job had always required some travel, a few days here and there, visiting clients across his territory in North Carolina and Virginia. But over those 8 months, the trips got longer. 3 days became 5. 5 became 6. He'd leave on Monday morning and not come back until Saturday night, exhausted and distracted and not quite meeting my eyes when I asked how things went. He started keeping his phone face down on every surface. He'd angle the screen away from me when texts came through. He began taking calls in his car or his office with the door closed, something he'd never done before. One night, I made a joke about it. We were getting ready for bed and his phone buzzed on the nightstand. He grabbed it so fast he nearly knocked over his water glass. "Hot date I should know about?" I asked, smiling, trying to keep it light. He didn't smile back. "It's work, Corinne. Not everything is about you. Maybe if you weren't so stressed from your job all the time, you wouldn't be so paranoid." I felt like I'd been slapped. I actually apologized. I lay in bed that night feeling guilty for even asking, convinced that I was becoming one of those wives, suspicious, insecure, naggy. I told myself I needed to relax. I told myself Wade was under pressure with his new territory and I needed to be supportive, not accusatory. So I backed off. I stopped asking questions. I threw myself deeper into my work at the rehabilitation center, taking extra cases, staying late, coming home too tired to notice the distance growing between us. When my mother asked pointed questions about Wade during our Sunday dinners, I dismissed her concerns with a wave of my hand. "Wade seems distracted lately," she said one evening, watching him through the kitchen window as he paced the backyard on yet another phone call. "Everything okay with you two?" "He's just busy, Mom. New territory, more pressure. You know how sales is." She gave me a look that mothers give when they know their children are lying to themselves. But she didn't push. Patrice had never been Wade's biggest fan, not since the early days when he forgot my birthday 2 years in a row. But she kept her opinions to herself because she knew I loved him. She trusted me to know my own marriage. I didn't know anything. I was sleepwalking through my own life, ignoring every red flag because the alternative was too terrifying to consider. The alternative meant my perfect life was a lie. The alternative meant starting over at 38 with a 7-year-old daughter and a broken heart. So I kept my head down and pretended everything was fine, until that Tuesday night when everything shattered. The morning after I found Junie on the stairs, I watched my husband make pancakes like nothing had happened. He stood at the stove in his boxers and old college t-shirt, flipping batter and whistling some country song under his breath. When Junie came downstairs, he scooped her up and kissed her. Cheek. "There's my pumpkin. Ready for the best pancakes in North Carolina?" I stood in the doorway of the kitchen, coffee mug gripped so tight my knuckles went white, and I watched him perform fatherhood like it was a role in a play. He had no idea that his daughter had cried herself to sleep. He had no idea that she'd heard every word of his phone call. He had no idea that I knew something was very, very wrong. Junie sat at the table and stared at her plate. Wade put 2 golden pancakes in front of her, drizzled with syrup just the way she liked. She didn't touch them. "Not hungry, pumpkin?" She shook her head without looking at him. Wade glanced at me with a confused expression, like I was supposed to explain our daughter's behavior. I shrugged and sipped my coffee. Let him wonder. Let him sit in that confusion for a while. "Gotta run," he said, checking his watch. "Early meeting with a client in Raleigh. I'll be back late tonight." He kissed me on the cheek, and I felt my skin crawl where his lips touched. "Love you, Cor." The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, Junie pushed her plate away. "I'm not hungry, Mommy." "You need to eat something, sweetheart." "I can't. My stomach hurts." I knelt beside her chair and brushed the hair from her face. "Junie, baby, can you tell me more about what you heard Daddy say? I want to understand." Her eyes filled with tears. "He was laughing, Mommy. He said we're boring and his new family is more fun. He said he wishes he could be there all the time instead of here." She looked at me with a devastation no 7-year-old should ever carry. "Am I boring? Is that why Daddy doesn't want to play with me anymore?" I pulled her into my arms and held her tight. "You are not boring. You are the most wonderful, creative, amazing girl in the entire world. Do you hear me?" She nodded against my shoulder, but I could tell she didn't believe me. How could she? Her father, the man who was supposed to love her unconditionally, had called her boring while laughing with someone else, someone from his new family. Those words would live inside her for years, maybe forever. For the next 2 days, Junie barely ate. A few bites of toast here, half a banana there. She stopped asking to watch her favorite horse show. She stopped drawing pictures of unicorns and rainbows. She just sat on the couch with butterscotch, staring at nothing, like the light inside her had been switched off. When Wade came home from his trips, she avoided him completely. She wouldn't sit next to him at dinner. She wouldn't hug him goodnight. She flinched when he tried to touch her shoulder. "What's going on with her?" Wade asked me on the second night, frustration creeping into his voice. "She's acting like I'm a stranger." "Maybe she's coming down with something," I said, keeping my voice flat. "Kids get weird when they don't feel well." He accepted that explanation because it was easier than digging deeper. That's who Wade was. I realized. A man who always chose the easy answer, the comfortable lie, the path of least resistance. He didn't want to know what was wrong with his daughter because knowing would require effort. It would require him to actually be present. On the third morning, I called my mother. Patrice arrived within the hour, took one look at Uni lying listlessly on the couch, and pulled me into the kitchen with a grip that meant business. "Tell me everything," she said. "And don't you dare sugarcoat it, Corinne. I can see it in your face. Something is very wrong." So I told her. I told her about the phone call, about what Uni heard, about the new family and the laughing and the 2 days of my daughter refusing to eat. I told her about the gym obsession and the new cologne and the business trips that kept getting longer. I told her about the phone he guarded like a state secret and the way he'd snapped at me when I asked about it. When I finished, my mother's face had turned to stone. Cold, hard, furious stone. "I never liked him," she said quietly. "You know that. From the very beginning, something about that man didn't sit right with me. But I kept my mouth shut because you loved him and I trusted you to make your own choices. That ends today." She grabbed my hands and squeezed hard. "You need to call Lorene. Right now. Today." Lorene Ashby was my cousin on my father's side. 45 years old, sharp as a blade, and one of the best family law attorneys in Raleigh. She'd handled dozens of divorce cases, including some messy ones involving infidelity and hidden assets. I'd never imagined I'd need her services. I'd never imagined I'd be one of those women sitting across from a lawyer explaining how her marriage fell apart. "I don't even know if he's actually cheating," I said weakly. "Maybe Junie misunderstood. Maybe it's not what it sounds like." My mother's expression didn't waver. "Corinne, your daughter stopped eating. Children don't stop eating because of a misunderstanding. Something is happening in your marriage, and you need to find out what it is before it destroys you and that little girl. Call Lorene." I looked through the kitchen doorway at Uni on the couch, small and pale and clutching her stuffed horse like it was the only safe thing left in the world. I picked up my phone and dialed. Lorene answered on the second ring. I could hear the clatter of her law office in the background, phones ringing and keyboards clicking and the hum of people doing important work. When I told her why I was calling, everything on her end went quiet. I heard a door close. Then her voice came back, lower and more serious. "Tell me everything, Corinne. Start from the beginning and don't leave anything out." So I told her the whole story for the second time that day. The phone call, Junie's words, the changes in Wade over the past 8 months, the business trips, the secrecy, the cologne and the gym and the way he looked at his phone like it contained something precious he needed to protect. Lorene listened without interrupting. When I finished, she let out a long breath. "Okay, here's what you need to understand. Right now, you have suspicion. Suspicion isn't enough. If you want to protect yourself and Uni in a divorce, you need evidence. North Carolina is an equitable distribution state, which means assets get divided fairly, but not necessarily equally. Adultery can affect alimony. More importantly, if Wade is leading some kind of double life and spending marital funds on another woman, that's financial misconduct. You need documentation of everything before you make any moves." "How do I get documentation?" "You hire someone to find it for you. I know a private investigator named Thaddeus Compton. He's a former police detective, runs his own firm now. He's expensive, but he's thorough and he's discreet. If there's something to find, Thad will find it." I almost laughed. A private investigator. It sounded like something out of a movie, not my actual life. 2 weeks ago, I was worried about whether Uni was getting enough vegetables and if we could afford to repaint the living room. Now I was being told to hire someone to spy on my husband. "Corinne, I know this feels surreal," Lorene said, reading my silence, "but you need to know what you're dealing with. For Junie's sake, if nothing else. That little girl is already suffering. Don't let this drag on longer than it has to." She gave me Thad's number. I stared at it for an hour before I finally made the call. His office was above a hardware store in an old part of town, the kind of building that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 1970s. I climbed a narrow staircase and found a door with a frosted glass window that read, "Compton Investigations," in faded gold lettering. Inside, the office was small but clean. A wooden desk, 2 chairs for clients, filing cabinets against the wall, and a window overlooking the street below. Thaddeus Compton wasn't what I expected. No trench coat or cigarette or dramatic demeanor. He was a calm, ordinary-looking man in his early 50s with reading glasses perched on his nose and a yellow legal pad in front of him. He stood when I entered and shook my hand with a firm but gentle grip. "Mrs. Davenport, please sit down. Tell me what's going on." I sat across from him and told the story for the third time. It got a little easier each time, like I was talking about someone else's life instead of my own. Thad listened carefully, taking notes in neat handwriting, asking occasional questions. When did the behavior changes start? Does your husband have a separate credit card you don't have access to? Has he mentioned any new coworkers or friends recently? Does he have a routine for his business trips, or do the locations vary? I answered as best I could. Some questions I didn't have answers for, which made me realize how little I actually knew about my husband's life outside our home. When I finished, Thad set down his pen and looked at me over his reading glasses. "Mrs. Davenport, in my experience, when someone suspects infidelity, they're almost never wrong. The gut knows before the mind accepts it. You've been noticing things for 8 months. Your instincts brought you here. I'd trust them if I were you. So you think he's cheating. I think something is going on that he doesn't want you to know about. Whether it's an affair or something else, I can't say yet, but I'll find out. Give me a week. I'll follow up on his business trips, check for financial irregularities, see if there's another address or another person in the picture. You'll have answers." I signed the contract and wrote a check that made my stomach turn. This was real. I was actually doing this. I was hiring someone to investigate my husband, the man I'd loved for over 2 decades. Thad must have seen something in my face because he leaned forward slightly. "Mrs. Davenport, I know this is hard, but whatever I find, you'll be better off knowing the truth. The not knowing is what destroys people. Trust me on that." I drove home in a daze. That night, Wade came back from another business trip. He kissed me hello, asked what was for dinner, complained about traffic on the highway, normal husband things. I watched him move through our kitchen, grabbing a beer from the fridge, loosening his tie, and I felt like I was looking at a stranger wearing my husband's face. "You okay, Cor? You seem distracted." "Just tired," I said. "Long week." He accepted that without question. He always accepted the easy answer. My mother moved into our guest room the next day under the guise of helping with Junie while I worked late. In reality, she was there to keep me sane and keep Junie distracted. Every night after Wade fell asleep, I'd sit with Patrice in the kitchen and we'd talk in whispers about what might be coming. She held my hand across the table and told me I was strong enough to handle whatever Thad discovered. I wasn't sure she was right, but I was about to find out. Thad called on the 5th day. I was at work, sitting in my office between patient sessions, trying to focus on case notes that wouldn't stay in my brain. When I saw his number on my phone, my heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. "Mrs. Davenport, I have information. Can you talk privately?" I closed my office door and sat down heavily in my chair. "Go ahead." "Your husband's business trips don't match his expense reports. He's been telling you he's in Raleigh, but his hotel charges are in Greensboro, different city entirely. I followed him on his last trip. He drove straight to a residential address, a 2-bedroom apartment in a nice complex on the west side of town. A woman lives there. Her name is Brianne Felton, age 29. She works in pharmaceutical sales, same territory as your husband. She has a 4-year-old son named Hollis." The room tilted. I gripped the edge of my desk to steady myself. "There's more," Thad continued, his voice careful and measured. "I dug into your husband's financials. 14 months ago, he opened a separate checking account at a bank you don't use. He's been funneling his commission bonuses into that account. Over the past year, he's spent approximately $47,000 from it. Most of that money went to Brianne Felton. He's been paying her rent. He bought her a car, a Honda Pilot titled in her name. He's listed as an emergency contact at her son's preschool. The teachers there know him as Hollis's stepdad." I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. $47,000, a car, an apartment, a child who called my husband his stepdad. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't a mistake. This was a whole other life, carefully constructed and maintained for over a year, while I slept beside him every night. "Mrs. Davenport, are you still there?" "I'm here," I managed. "Is there anything else?" There was a pause. When Thad spoke again, his voice was gentler. "I have photographs. I want to warn you, some of them are difficult to look at, but you'll need them for the divorce proceedings." He emailed them while we were still on the phone. I opened the attachment with shaking hands. The first photo showed Wade pushing a little boy on a swing at a park, both of them laughing. The second showed Wade carrying the same boy on his shoulders at what looked like a county fair, cotton candy in the child's hand. The third was the one that broke me. Wade, Brianne, and Hollis sitting in a restaurant booth together, leaning into each other like a family portrait. Brianne was pretty, younger than me, with blonde hair and a bright smile. Hollis had her coloring, but something about his expression reminded me of Junie. Just a kid, happy to be with the adults who loved him. I looked at the date stamp on the fair photo, June 15th, Junie's 7th birthday. The day Wade told me he couldn't make it to her party because of a critical client meeting that couldn't be rescheduled. I'd made excuses to our guests. I'd told Junie that Daddy was so sorry and he'd make it up to her. She'd blown out her candles without him while I took photos with a fake smile plastered on my face. He was at a county fair with another woman's child while his own daughter wondered why her father didn't come to her birthday party. I sat in my office and let the tears fall. Not sad tears, furious tears. Tears that burned as they ran down my face. All the love I'd felt for Wade Davenport transformed into something harder and colder in that moment. He didn't deserve my grief. He deserved consequences. I called Lorene that night. We talked for 3 hours, building a strategy piece by piece. She would file the divorce petition first thing Friday morning. We would request an emergency custody evaluation, citing Junie's psychological distress and refusal to eat after learning about her father's double life. We would present all of Thad's evidence showing financial misconduct and adultery. We would petition for full custody with supervised visitation only. Once you file, he's going to panic, Lorene warned me. He'll call you nonstop. He'll beg. He'll threaten. He might cry. He might get angry. Do not engage. Everything goes through me from now on. Do you understand? I understand. And Corinne, whatever he says, whatever he promises, remember those photos. Remember that he missed his daughter's birthday to play house with another family. Men like Wade don't change. They just get better at hiding. Friday morning came. Lorene filed the papers at 9 o'clock sharp. By noon, Wade had been served at his office. My phone started buzzing at 12:15 and didn't stop. His name flashed across my screen over and over, call after call after call. I let every single one go to voicemail. The texts poured in right behind them. Why am I getting served papers? What is this? Corinne, what the hell is happening? Call me right now. This isn't funny. We need to talk. You can't do this without talking to me first. I didn't respond to any of them. I was done talking to Wade Davenport. He came home at 4 o'clock, slamming through the front door like a storm. I was in the bedroom, calmly packing his clothes into boxes. My mother sat at the kitchen table with her arms crossed, positioned like a guard dog ready to bite. Junie was safely at a friend's house for a play date, far away from whatever was about to happen. Wade found me in the closet, folding his shirts with steady hands. What the hell is going on? You're divorcing me? After 11 years, you just file papers without even talking to me? I didn't look up. There's nothing to talk about, Wade. There's everything to talk about. You can't just end our marriage like this, Corinne. This is insane. I set down the shirt I was folding and finally met his eyes. 11 years of marriage and 14 months of a secret family in Greensboro. The color drained from his face. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Brianne Felton, I continued. Hollis, the apartment you pay for, the car you bought her, the $47,000 you funneled from a hidden bank account. You missed Junie's birthday to take your girlfriend's son to a county fair. I picked up another shirt and resumed folding. So no, Wade, we don't need to talk. I know everything. Wade stood in our bedroom doorway, watching me pack his things, and I saw the exact moment his confidence shattered. The charming smile disappeared. The easy excuses dried up in his throat. For the first time in our entire marriage, my husband had nothing to say. That silence lasted about 30 seconds. Then came the excuses. It's not what you think, Corinne. Brianne and I are just friends. I was helping her out because she's a single mom and she was struggling. That's all it was. I swear to God. I kept folding. You bought her a car, Wade. You pay her rent. Her son's preschool has you listed as his stepdad. Try again. His voice cracked. Okay, I made a mistake. It was stupid and I'm sorry, but it didn't mean anything. She doesn't mean anything. You're my wife. Junie is my daughter. This is my real family. I finally stopped folding and looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I'd known since I was 17 years old, who I'd trusted with my whole heart, who I'd built an entire life around. He looked smaller somehow, pathetic. A little boy caught stealing cookies and desperately trying to lie his way out of trouble. Your real family, I repeated slowly. The boring one. The one that's not as fun as Brienne and Hollis. The one you laughed about on the phone while your 7-year-old daughter listened from the stairs. His face went pale. Junie heard that? Junie heard everything. She stopped eating for 2 days. She asked me if she was boring. She asked me if her daddy loved her anymore. So don't you dare stand there and tell me about your real family, Wade. You threw your real family away the moment you decided we weren't enough for you. That night, he called me 89 times. I counted them the next morning when I looked at my phone. 89 missed calls between 10 at night and 6 in the morning. The voicemails ranged from angry to pleading to sobbing. He blamed loneliness. He blamed my work schedule. He blamed stress and pressure and a midlife crisis he didn't see coming. He promised to end things with Brienne immediately. He promised to go to therapy. He promised to be a better husband and father if I would just give him one more chance. I texted him back once. Just once. You destroyed this family the moment you told another woman you loved her while your daughter slept in the next room. You destroyed Junie when you called her boring. There is nothing left for you here. All future communication goes through my attorney. Then I blocked his number. The divorce took 4 months to finalize. During the custody evaluation, a family court counselor interviewed Junie privately. I wasn't allowed in the room, so I sat in the waiting area with my mother, holding her hand so tightly I probably left bruises. When the counselor came out, her expression was somber. She didn't tell me what Junie said, but Lorene called me that evening with the results. The evaluator is recommending full custody to you with supervised visitation for Wade. Apparently, when she asked Junie about her father, your daughter said something that made quite an impact. What did she say? Lorene paused. She said, Daddy has a different family now. He doesn't need us anymore. I don't want to see him because he lies all the time, and it makes me feel sick. 7 years old. My baby girl was 7 years old, and she already understood that her father was a liar. That knowledge would live inside her forever. Some wounds don't heal completely. They just become part of who you are. The judge granted me full custody, the house, and significant alimony. Wade got supervised visitation every other Saturday for 4 hours. Most of those visits, Junie sits quietly and counts down the minutes until she can come home. She doesn't call him Daddy anymore. She calls him Wade. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I heard through mutual friends that Wade and Brienne had broken up. Apparently, Brienne discovered the full truth about his lies. He'd told her he was already divorced when they met. He told her I was difficult and cold and keeping him trapped in a loveless marriage. When she found out he'd been playing both families against each other the whole time, she ended things. Last I heard, Wade was living alone in a small apartment, showing up to work late, letting himself go. The charm doesn't work as well when everyone knows what's underneath it. I wish I could say I felt satisfied hearing that, but mostly I just felt tired. Tired and sad for the years I wasted on a man who never deserved them. Junie is doing better now. She sees a therapist every week, a wonderful woman who specializes in helping children process family trauma. The drawings have started again, horses and rainbows and sunshine. She drew a picture of our family last month and showed it to me proudly. It was me, her, and my mother Patrice standing in front of our house. Wade wasn't in it. That's my real family, she told me, the people who don't lie. I hung that drawing on the refrigerator and I look at it every single morning. My mother still comes over for Sunday dinners. We sit around the table, just the 3 of us now, and we talk and laugh and enjoy each other's company. Sometimes I catch Patrice watching me with this expression on her face, something between pride and relief. You did the right thing, she told me recently. I know it was hard. I know it still hurts. But you showed Junie what it looks like when a woman refuses to accept less than she deserves. That's a lesson she'll carry her whole life. I hope she's right. I hope that someday, when Junie is grown and facing her own difficult decisions, she'll remember that her mother didn't crumble. Her mother stood up. Her mother fought back. Her mother chose truth over comfort and self-respect over a broken marriage. If you're watching this and something in my story sounds familiar, if you're noticing changes in your partner that don't add up, if your gut is telling you something is wrong but your heart doesn't want to believe it, I want you to hear me clearly. Trust yourself. Your instincts exist for a reason. The people who love you will never make you feel crazy for asking questions, and your worth is not measured by whether your relationship survives. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. Wade called me 89 times that night, begging me not to leave. I never answered. Because some phone calls don't deserve a response. Some men don't deserve another chance. He made his choice when he built a secret life with another woman. And I finally made mine when I decided my daughter and I deserved better. We did deserve better, and now we have it. Thank you so much for watching and for staying with me through this story. If Corinne's journey touched your heart or made you think about your own life, please take a moment to hit that like button and share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Your shares help these stories reach women who are going through similar situations and might feel alone right now. Drop a comment below and tell me your thoughts. Have you ever had to trust your instincts even when it was terrifying? I read every single comment and I love hearing from you. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new story. We post every week, and this community we're building together means the world to me. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember that you are worthy of love that doesn't come with lies. See you in the next one.